I'd now like to welcome Dr. Avi. Dr. Avi is a global award-winning master coach, speaker and trainer. He's worked with over 200 organisations across 10 countries, helping leaders upskill themselves in commercial growth strategies, leadership development and team performance. He's helped companies like Pfizer grow to over $1 billion in revenue in Australia. He's now worked with multinational companies and professional service firms to optimise their brain power, maybe that's something we need, and use AI at scale. Let's welcome Dr. Avi. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Thailand. How are you doing? Good. I can't hear you. Malaysia was a lot louder. Good morning, Thailand. How are you? Awesome. Welcome to the Grant Thornton Conference. I'm really excited to be here today. Hey guys, there is a saying that I recently modified, and it goes something like this. People can get you places where money can't. But today, AI can get you places where people can't. You see, in my work with over 200 different organizations around the world, particularly coaching CEOs, consulting to C-suite executive teams, and helping managers upskill themselves, we've demonstrated that there are enormous secrets around business management, profitability, and growth that are not necessarily being shared. But for even the secrets that are being shared, these have now been completely transformed to digitization and artificial intelligence. And so the purpose of my conversation with you today is to share some of these secrets to help you with a new leadership system that will work in the current environment. Would that be of interest? Yes. Malaysia was a little bit louder. Once again, would that be of interest, ladies and gentlemen? Yes. Awesome. Thank you for your permission. Now here's the bad news. The bad news is this. The world is currently in a major conflict. I don't just mean the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the conflict between Israel and Palestine, or the conflict between China and Taiwan. These are all disastrous conflicts. The conflict that I'm talking about is far greater. The conflict that I'm talking about is a silent one. It's occurring in your minds, in the boardrooms of every single company, in the meeting rooms that you go into day in and day out. And the conflict is this. Do I now trust my own opinion and my own judgment when making a decision? Or do I trust the machine? This challenge, ladies and gentlemen, will not only be exacerbated by the changes that we're seeing, but it's only going to get worse in the next 10 to 20 years in your companies. And so how do we adapt? Because in my research with leaders all around the world, they've told me 5 things are their biggest problems today. Number 1, many companies and many organizations are facing market slowdowns. With the rising interest rates that Ian mentioned earlier, many are seeing increasing wage inflation and a decline in margins. This is something that a lot of CEOs and boards are having to adapt to. Secondly, I also see organizations complaining about challenges in communicating with customers. Because of some of these growth pressures and the downward pressures on margins, we're seeing customers actually coming up with more challenges in communication and the need to actually be able to communicate in multiple different channels to be effective. Thirdly, I'm also seeing or many of the leaders have said to me, Avi, we are seeing lots and lots of competing priorities that we cannot keep up with it. We can't actually determine which project we put in front of the others because we have so many at play at the moment, and I have so many bosses trying to tell me what to do. There is huge amount of information overload. Then leaders are telling me, Avi, I've got a whole bunch of teams under me. Some are high performing, some are low performing, some are highly motivated, some are not motivated. How do I manage all these different personalities? And on top of that, they're all from different generations, from baby boomers to Gen X to even Gen Alpha, and I don't know how to manage all of them effectively. Finally, we come to the topic that we're here to talk about today. All this noise about AI, is it just trendy stuff from a bunch of speakers telling you should do it, or is there real ROI here? How do I actually get the benefits relative to the costs? That is what CEOs are telling me they really want to work through. And so many of them are now inundated with an abundance of information and having to have thoughts like, what do I prioritize today as you're driving into work? Some of you, as you're coming in and customer facing, put your hands up if you're customer facing or dealing with customers every day. Put your hands up. A few. Many of you will be thinking as you come into work as well, what do I tell that customer in order to win the deal today? What do I say to them to shift how they're going to behave, right? And you're having to work through all of this in an environment where the human mind, every single one of you, makes 35,000 decisions a day. Your brain makes 35,000 decisions a day. Do I wake up now? Do I go to sleep? Do I go to the Courageous Leadership Conference? Do I not? Do I come for Manoj session? Do I come for Dr. Avi's session? Do I walk forward? Do I walk back? Which underwear do I wear? All these are decisions that are occupying your brain every single morning and throughout your day. But you only got 35,000 decisions. Some are minor, some are major. The complexity, though, is this. The average organization now has 400 data sources in order to make a decision, on average. Your CRM system, your accounting system, your finance system, your HR and payroll system, the voices of your managers, the voices of your boards. There are so many inputs now that the research has now showed that executives now face, or 75% of executives have said the amount of decisions they have to make, the decision load, has increased tenfold in the last 3 years. It's absolutely complex. And so, how do you actually work through this and work out your most optimal path to profitability? Amongst all the questions that you have in your mind, the biggest question should be, what is my best path to achieve optimal, fastest growth and profitability? Because studies have shown that there's a 95% correlation between your decision effectiveness and your financial performance. Your ability to make a decision is what is determining the performance of your companies and your teams. And so as we look through the current environment, I've developed a new leadership system in order to help you achieve growth in the current era, in the age of AI. We call that neuroscience and AI-enhanced leadership. And that is the ability to optimize the use of your brain and the use of AI tools at the same time in order to lead your organizations. The short form for this is called NAIL. How do we know that this is effective? Well, the reality is some of the fastest transformational companies in the world have been using these kinds of techniques for over 20 years. Let me explain. Companies like Tesla have been using neuroscience and AI-enhanced techniques in order for their managers to learn what they need to learn and apply it to every single task they're doing as fast as they're thinking about it. The ability to get the information that you need in order to do the task that you need to do has allowed Tesla to grow to such a pace that in 20 years, they were founded in 2003. In 20 years, their market cap, they're number one automotive company in the industry, but their market cap is equivalent to the next 10 competitors in the automotive industry, $800 billion. And so their ability to use AI and optimize the brains of their managers at scale to help them learn is one of the major secrets in which they've actually been able to grow and accelerate growth beyond their competitors. Does that make sense? It's amazing, isn't it? And so when we look at and unpack what this NAIL system looks like, what this growth system looks like, there are three major pillars. The first is the need to achieve profitable sales. Now you go, what? Isn't sales always profitable? It's actually a misnomer. we're seeing many companies and many CEOs that are not performing optimally actually generating a lot of revenue and a lot of sales, but they're not profitable. They've now made a mismatch in decisions and not been able to catch up with some of the major trends in the market. Costs have gone up, they're still selling to the same markets, and they're actually not profitable as they used to be. And so one of the things we help CEOs do is actually tweak their go-to-market strategies in order to actually approach markets with attractive business models that are profitable. The second big pillar is enhancing team performance. And we've talked a lot about that today in some of the chairs in terms of how do we actually enhance team performance in the current environment. It speaks for itself. But thirdly, the foundation for all of this success in any company is building inspiring leaders. As I mentioned before, we are now in an era where the leadership of an organization has so much impact on the success of an organization. But leaders in majority of companies are baby boomers. And many of them are not digital savvy. And so we're seeing that conflict between leaders who are not as digital savvy now having to drive one of the most fundamental transformational changes in companies. And that enables success or failure of businesses. Underpinning these three major pillars are 9 subdomains. We do not have time to go into all of them today. However, what I'd like to go through is one of the most important ones in the bottom right, and that's called optimized decisions. Why is this one of the most critical success factors for you as business leaders today? The reason is this. If you think about the success of every single one of your businesses, particularly if you're a CEO and a senior leader, it's really a function of your decision making over a period of time. Your brain makes decisions such as winning new customers, such as working on your colleagues to invest in new market offerings, such as hiring the right talent to enable growth. And ultimately, for the high-performing leaders, you will achieve this optimal path to profitability, particularly for all of you that are in complex businesses and having to deal with lots and lots of different challenges. However, there are some of you that are also achieving the converse. You're making the wrong decisions, leading to significant losses. And that is not just one wrong decision. It's multiple wrong decisions over a period of time. Now you say, all of you are super clever. You've been promoted to where you are today. How can you be making lots of wrong decisions? Well, the reality is, it's not entirely your fault. The amount of information being thrown at you at the moment is so heavy that almost every single senior leader cannot cope with it. You experience something called decision stress or decision fatigue, where you're asked by so many questions by your employees and your boards and so on, that you can't actually continue to make good decisions throughout the day. What kind of leaders know these secrets? This is one of them. Look at what he wore every single day for over 10 years. Steve Jobs wore the exact same clothing in terms of his black turtleneck top and jeans and shoes every single day for 10 years, not because it was a fashion statement. He wore it because he was saving his morning decision capacity in order to invest it in high-value decisions around product and growth, rather than low-value decisions around what clothes am I going to wear this morning. Does that make sense? Thank you. I look at most of you. How many of you are wearing different clothes today than you did yesterday? Right? You're consuming your decision capacity on low-value tasks when they should be focused on high-value tasks. And the best leaders in the world know the secrets I'm teaching you right now. That's why I'm teaching it to you. And so, in the current environment, on the environment of the past, we have been making decisions on customer problems, tackling market opportunities, dealing with colleague issues, using our brains. This is how your brain works. I'm a medical doctor by background. It's not a PhD doctor. So let me just quickly show you. Your brain, the neocortex of your brain, is processing the logical facts. It's rational. When you're looking at market opportunities, when you're dealing with customers, you're looking at the facts, the dollar signs, what's written in documentation, along whether this is a good opportunity or not. But then the limbic system of the brain actually processes the emotions. Do I feel fear? Do I feel courage? How do I feel about a certain thing? A lot of the times when people are thinking about AI, there is a lot of fear associated with those decisions. And they fear the loss of your jobs. You cannot fully embrace AI in your organization until you counter that fear. Okay? Finally, the most important area of the brain, the brainstem, is what fires when you have a fight or flight response, when it's about your survival instinct. During the pandemic, everyone had their brainstem firing because everyone was worried about life or death through COVID-19. And so when you look at the products that were bought during that period, vaccines, disinfectants, anything that will save your life, you will spend a lot of money on because your brainstem was firing at that point in time. Right now, some people also have their brainstem firing in terms of survival instinct because they risk losing their jobs. In the modern era, it's not the tiger jumping out of the bush that's going to threaten you. It's your boss coming into your office going, "You've lost your job!" That's the truth. That's the truth. And so today, whilst in the past we were using manual decision making, the human mind was what was emphasizing decisions. Moving forward, we now have the opportunity for AI tools to enhance that decision making, to be part of your decision making process. It's called AI enhanced cognition. AI enhanced cognition. And it's an absolute category that's just going to blow away how business is done all around the world. We've proved it by using and working with leaders around the world. Some of this was early work where we started to generate algorithms around decision making and strategic decision making. This is one case study where we worked with an organization called Legend. It's an industrial and engineering company in Australia. One of the things we did with the leader over there, a general manager called Steve Rowe, was actually help the algorithm or use an algorithm to generate some new decisions, similar to what AI would do, in order for them to make new strategic options. They took on 32% of the algorithm-generated decision options and the other 70+% from human decision options. Combined that and implemented that over the next 6 to 12 months. And what they found was this. Not only did staff engagement improve by 4 or 5%, retention improved, but the interesting side effect of this experiment was that profitability actually improved by profitability per employee actually improved by 35%. What? How can profitability improve by that much? The reason is this. In service-oriented companies, about 70% of the cost is actually labor. It's wages. And when you actually optimize that labor cost, when you actually invest in your people, when you retain them and they're motivated, there's a significant upside in productivity. Unfortunately, a lot of companies in Asia don't necessarily do that. We see people as a cost, not as an asset. And so that thinking, that mindset needs to change in this future environment. And so the technology, one of the challenges I've had in terms of delivering my services and coaching CEOs is that I'm only one person, one human with high knowledge base. But a lot of the CEOs were trying to ask me, Avi, I need your advice on X, Y, and Z. How do I actually digitize that and enable that with AI? So one of the things my team and I have done is download the contents of my brain onto digital assets. YouTube videos, research papers, books that have been endorsed by world leaders, and then upload that into an AI clone. Manoj was talking earlier about the digital twin was coming soon. He was right. It's already here now. Okay? And right now, we'll actually be showing you how a digital twin actually works. My digital twin. So what I'd like to do is this. Let's start with a real-world experiment. Let's stop with all this pretending theoretical stuff. Let's do something practical. What I'd like to invite you to do is actually think. Think for a second, because the question earlier about we've lost our thinking, will we lose our thinking, was actually a very valid question. Over the last few decades, our brain matter has actually reduced. our brain matter is actually reduced because of our dependency on technological tools. So we are reducing some degree of our thinking. But the other answer is also right. We'll start thinking about different things and thinking differently. And so what I'd like you to do right now, an invitation is for you to just close your eyes for a second and think about what is one challenge that you're having in your business right now. Just one challenge. And we're going to test out my clone and see if it can answer that for you. Does that sound cool? Yeah? Very cool. Excellent. Can I invite you now just to close your eyes, deep breath, and just think about one problem in your business. I've got a few prompts here that you can look at on what might be challenging you at the moment. Come around and ask some volunteers. Okay, are we ready? Good. Now, I'm going to just come around. I'm just a bit logistically tied to this side of the room for the moment. So any volunteers over there? Yep, we've got a couple. Very good. Let's just go to one. Okay, you have a question for my clone. Mic's working. And so if I can ask the rest of you to be quiet whilst we get my clone connected. Okay. Thank you. So the way the clone works is basically, it's now hooked up to the phone. So essentially, with just a very simple web link, you can now ask the clone any question that you'd want to ask Dr.
Hey,
Avi.
I'm Dr. Avi's clone. How can I help you?
Question?
Well, there's so many challenges I can think of. So just maybe one, because one of our panelists, or maybe even Ian or maybe a few panelists talked about mindset.
Yeah.
So I would want to maybe ask your clone about change management, because things are changing every day, maybe every minute, every second. So when we work with our client, they really want to change, they want to make changes. The challenge would be around how do they bring their people along
On the journey.
on this journey.
Okay, all right. Good question. Anybody else have similar problem? One second.
Hey, I'm Dr. Avi's clone. How can I help you?
Hello, clone. Good to see you. So we have one person in the audience who has a challenge bringing people on the journey of change. Have you got any recommendations on how she can bring people on the journey of change in her organization?
Absolutely. The key to bringing people on the journey of change is clear communication and engagement. Start by articulating a compelling vision that aligns with the organization's goals and resonates with your team. It's essential to be transparent about why the change is needed and how it benefits everyone. Encourage open dialogue, allowing team members to voice concerns and ideas. This fosters a sense of ownership and collaboration. Regular updates and celebrating small wins can maintain momentum and enthusiasm. Now, how does she currently communicate changes within her organization?
I don't know. I'll ask her shortly and we'll get back to you. Thank you, clone. Was that useful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We'll try one more. Okay, we'll try one more. I'll see if we can get to you, but I do have a time limit, unfortunately. What is your question, sir?
Thank you. Today's information of AI is mostly on general knowledge, but I would like to have an AI that is a domain expert based on Thai legal law and or the judge cases and can reference and be an advisor to any legal advice. How would I approach this?
Okay, so you're building something to utilize Thai legal law in order to advise people. Can you explain that?
I would like to build this kind of AI to give this kind of advice.
Okay.
Which domain, which is very expert in a domain subject of Thai legal law.
Okay, all right. Let's try that.
Hey, I'm Dr. Avi's clone. How can I help you?
Hi, clone. We have a participant in the Thornton conference who is wanting to build a technology platform that utilizes Thai legal law in order to basically create queries from and answer questions in the organization. Have you got any suggestions for him on the approach?
Creating a technology platform that leverages Thai legal law for organizational queries is an exciting endeavor. I recommend starting with a thorough needs assessment to identify the specific legal areas and types of queries the platform should address. Collaborate with legal experts to ensure accuracy and compliance. Use AI-driven natural language processing to enhance the platform's ability to understand and respond to complex legal questions. Lastly, consider integrating a feedback loop to continually improve the system's accuracy and relevance. How does the participant envision the platform being used within the organization?
Is that useful? Good start?
That sounds like a good start.
Sounds like a good start. Okay, excellent. Was that cool, guys? He's still talking. He's quite a young clone, so he doesn't know when to shut up. But that just shows you the power of utilizing AI when you can have like world-leading experts advising you in real time to make your decisions. Imagine every single manager in your organization having something like that to advise them before they come to you with a dumb question, right? The most powerful thing is, in order for a CEO to get coached by me at the moment, it's about 4,000 USD per month. In order for you to get Dr. Avi clone, it's 20 USD per month. 200 times savings. The cost equation around this is tremendous. And that applies to every single professional service or knowledge-based service around the world. And so, before I leave the stage today, I really want to thank you for your attention and acknowledge you for paying attention. I'd like to give you two gifts. One is for those of you who are interested in optimizing your decision-making and how your brain works in making decisions, you can have a snap of this QR code, and I'll provide you with an optimized decision toolkit. Secondly, for those of you who are interested in experimenting with my clone and would like to test it out for yourself, again, the QR code will give you a link where you can actually start talking to your clone, because this is the future. All of us are going to be combining conversations with humans with conversations with AI and clones in order to make decisions for tomorrow. I'm going to put that QR code up in the next slide as well, because hopefully by the end of today, you've now realized, not only heard, but also seen and felt what it's like to actually understand three things. Firstly, that in the past, we were actually basing our growth and profitability based on inputs of human decisions. That's how we grew the fastest. Secondly, today, many of the speakers have already told you this. The combination of the human mind and brain together with AI delivers the best thinking possible in the fastest time possible. But tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, the fastest profitable growth leaders will not only be doing it for themselves as leaders, but actually enabling the entire teams at scale to use neuroscience and AI-based techniques for growth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I hope you've learned a lot. Kapung Krat, and I'd love to connect with you at the rest of today's conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Avi. It was interesting that talking about assets from Dr. Avi. We at Grant Thornton, we're always telling particularly our manufacturing companies, that they need to sweat their assets more, get the most out of their assets. And I took from that speech, the assets of certainly our business and a lot of your businesses is people. Now, perhaps we shouldn't be saying we're going to sweat our people more. But what I'm getting is with AI, we can get a lot more out of them because they are able to make decisions much more quickly. They're able to do research much more quickly. And I guess job satisfaction is going to be much better. So some great tips there. Thank you.
Good evening, Malaysia. How are you? You've just had Justin Cohen for 1 hour, and you're still alive. Congratulations. How's it feel? Can you do me a quick favor? Can you just quickly stand up? Quickly stand up. Can I invite you to stand up? turn to the person next to you, give them a big high five and say, this next speaker is going to be awesome. Quick high five. This next speaker is going to be awesome.
High five, high five.
Excellent. Thank you very much. You may sit down. It's a little bit premature, but I will accept that. I will accept that. Very kind hospitality. As Ben said, my name is Dr. Avi Ratnanason. I'm the founder and CEO of Energis. We're an Australian company, and I've lived in Australia for over 25 years now, working on leadership, growth, business, and helping particularly CEOs and C-suite organizations and executives build the greatest companies in the world and help their people grow into amazing human beings at the same time. Now, everything I'm going to share to you is knowledge that I want you to have that you can take back. And I'm so excited that you're here for this session because this session is probably going to be the most important session of the day. Why is that? Well, let me start with a story. Several years after I became a doctor, I decided to switch into a management role after doing an MBA. And very fortunately, I got moved up the corporate ladder really quickly, to the point that I actually got appointed as Chief of Staff of Pfizer in Australia. Anyone heard of the company Pfizer? Yes. I was Chief of Staff of Pfizer in Australia at the age of 34. And I was advising the CEO of the largest company in the industry. The CEO at the time was a transformational and inspiring leader, a man called John Latham. And John, in his 4 years at Pfizer, grew it to become the largest and most powerful company in the whole health industry in Australia. When he retired, I wanted to learn from John. And I asked John, in all your years at Pfizer, what was your biggest success? Now, John is a former CFO. He's a chartered professional accountant. He used to be a PwC consultant. And I was pretty sure the thing he was going to say was, Avi, I loved it when we broke the $1 billion revenue record in Australia for the first time in history. I was pretty sure he was going to say that. But he didn't. He said, Avi, my greatest achievement is the leaders that I helped build in the company and the impact they went on to make in the world from what they learned here. That answer changed my thinking about success in business and success in leadership for the rest of my life. It set me on a path to think about what is it about change in the world? What is it about business that brings out the best in us if we choose it to be? Who are the inspiring leaders that you think about when you look at the internet and do any of these faces come up? Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates. These are all business leaders that have transformed history. But one of the things that's really important, because before coming here, we did some research with Malaysian leaders, over 100 Malaysian leaders. And you know, one of the things that I found when I asked Asian leaders who the most inspiring leaders were, most of them were Western names. Hardly ever did an Asian name come up as an inspiring leader. Now, you could say that that's a problem. But I say to you, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for you to start learning how to be an inspiring leader and build a competitive advantage in your organization. How do you do that? Well, leadership is not something you're naturally born with. Yes, we do know some leaders who actually seem to be born with that natural talent, but it is built, and it can be built over time. So many of us start off as these ad hoc leaders, right? You're asked to go captain the football team. Maybe you're asked to lead a social group on a piece of travel. Maybe you're asked to lead a family event. We're all given these ad hoc roles as leaders. But then we start being given something formal. Go lead a project at work. Go lead a task that's a little bit complex. That's when we become the execution leader. But then, for some leaders, you start to get promoted higher up into the rungs. And this is what I see very often. Promotions that happen because you're a technical expert in the role, but you don't necessarily have the people management or professional or leadership skills. Does anyone know anyone like that in the organization? Put your hand up. Some people like, my boss is sitting next to me, I don't think I will. I start coaching managers and leaders in this stage, stage 3. And a lot of them want to get to stage 4. Because to grow your business to a completely different level, to grow your organization to a completely different size, you need to start building empowering and becoming an empowering leader. You need to start empowering other leaders and allow them to make the mistakes to go out there and make the big change in the organization that you will. But from all the CEOs that I work with, some of the best in the world, the secret desire for all of them is to be this, the inspiring leader. They all want to inspire others. And do you know why? Because the day you start inspiring others is the day you start inspiring yourself. That is the day you wake up in the morning and you start to love the job that you do. In our research with Malaysian leaders over the last 6 months, we discovered some of the common challenges that Malaysian leaders experience. One of the things they say to me is, Avi, I find it really hard to motivate my people. So many of them are lazy. How do I get them to be more productive? I find it so difficult. Variable motivation amongst the workforce. The other thing that happens that Malaysian leaders have told me about is communication issues. We have different races, we have different accents, we have different technologies. We're using WhatsApp, we're using email, we're using computers. And then in Malaysia and in Asia, we sometimes don't really say what we want. What's your real agenda? It's hidden. Because we tend to suppress that because we don't want to create conflict. Can anyone relate to that? I see some nodding heads. Another big problem in the Asian context. Then we have multiple competing priorities. Lots of projects. My boss told me to do this. My other boss told me to do this. Our head of global told me to do this. Lots of competing priorities. What do I prioritize first? And numerous distractions. Bosses are telling me, Avi, I have a meeting and my staff are on WhatsApp, they're on email, they're checking the computer. I can't even get them to listen. Engagement is low. And finally, the silent killer. The mental stress, the burnout, and the fatigue. As a doctor, I see this in organizations. But not every manager is skilled at asking an employee, are you okay? And not every employee is comfortable saying, no, I'm not. There's going to be a whole track about it tomorrow. But the thing about this is that these are real challenges in Malaysian audiences, in Malaysian companies. Now, irrespective if you're Malay, Chinese, Indian, Dan Lion, you have a brain, you have a heart, and we all bleed red. Every single reaction that you're seeing these people react to comes from the brain at some point. Justin was talking about it earlier. The neocortex is processing the logic. What you're communicating to your employees, what your bosses are communicating to you, the facts they're communicating to you is processed through the neocortex. The limbic system is your emotions. Any fear or anger that you might feel towards your boss is being processed through your limbic system of the brain. The brainstem is your survival instincts. It's the fight or flight response. Thousands of years ago, the tiger would jump out of the bush and you would react out of fear and lack of safety. But today, the boss is jumping into your office. Where's that damn report? And you suddenly feel that panic, right? Our survival instincts are now challenged in ways never before in the workplace. So it's time for a change. And every leader and manager that I speak to has these problems: changing environments and stakeholder demands, multiple competing priorities, and every now and again, suboptimal performance. Every inspiring leader has to deal with these 3 big challenges. And after working with CEOs in C-suite organizations in over 150 organizations in 6 countries, I found 3 big things in common that they all need. Number 1, leadership growth. You have to develop your leaders and upskill them on how to how to change and deal with these changing times, exactly what all the speakers today have been talking about. I'm really just packaging it all together. Secondly, they need strategized focus. A clear strategy, because honestly, guys, you cannot do everything. You have to pick your bets and you have to decide what's going to give you the biggest difference in your work tomorrow. Do you know your strategy? And third, optimize performance. Please take as many photos as you like from this presentation today. The knowledge is here to be shared. But when it comes to optimized performance, it's all about how do we deal with and troubleshoot the issues that we have on a day-to-day basis. Now, moving through this very quickly, there's lots of detail that I won't go into, but we will cover it a bit more. I am teaching leaders on now how to become healthy leaders, because coming out of the pandemic, so many people want managers that care. And that can be designed. When it comes to strategy, there needs to be a clear transformation agenda. You need to know where you're going, and it's absolutely fantastic to see HRDC taking it to a completely another level with the conference they're having. That shows great leadership. Finally, when it comes to optimizing performance, there are many aspects of performance that we need to look into, but so many leaders now are asking me for CFBE performance. Do you know what CFBE stands for? Dr. Avi, how can we make our business do things cheaper, faster, better, and easier? Every leader is trying to achieve more profitability now. I asked my friends at Gallup. Gallup is one of the leading organizations in the world when it comes to human resource and leadership development. And I asked them to send me their data on the strengths of Malaysian leaders. They sampled 30,000 leaders over 10 years. And they found that the number one strength of Malaysian leaders is responsibility. So even though we have all these challenges, the number one strength of all of you is that you can actually take on more responsibility. You can actually take on more of a change if we know how to tap into that strength. Why is this important? 20 years ago, one of the best books ever written about business, a book called Firms of Endearment, looked at leaders that cared most for the people in their organizations. And the study was remarkable. It followed companies over a period of 10 years. One being the S&P 500 companies. These are the biggest companies in the US stock market. Followed them for 10 years and look at their returns. It then followed Jim Collins' Good to Great companies. Anyone read the book, Jim Collins' Good to Great? Yeah. These are exceptional companies as well. Followed them for 10 years. And then it followed these companies they called the Firms of Endearment. The companies that clearly demonstrated care for their employees, their customers, beyond the others. These were companies like Whole Foods, Costco, Disney, and so on. And what they found was that the S&P 500 companies returned 122% over 10 years. You invest $1 in them, 10 years later, you get 122% return. The Jim Collins Good to Great companies turned over 331% over 10 years. But the Firms of Endearment turned over 1,026% growth over 10 years. If you're ever in business, this is the most important slide you need. If you're ever in HR and your CEO says to you, why should I spend money on training? Why should I invest in my people? This is the slide you need to show them. The amount of growth in companies that consistently invest in their people is far beyond any expectation. This is the ROI slide. The only problem with the Firms of Endearment book is that it didn't tell you exactly how to get there from where you are now. And that has been the basis of my research for the last few years. Because over the last few years, I've been researching 200 different leaders from CEOs, HR, CFOs, and so on, and decoded and broke down the process of how you get there from where you are today. We broke it down into 8 simple steps. You don't have to memorize all of them, just take a snapshot of it now. But one of the things that we're really excited about is that Deepak Chopra, an author of 90 books, 22 became New York Times bestsellers, regarded by Times Magazine
as a top 100 icon of the century, endorsed this book, my very first book. That is pioneering. But what's more important for that is how can this help you? So today, I want to share this book with you as a gift. All you need to do, send me a WhatsApp, connect with me on LinkedIn, come up to me after the conference, or send me an email, and you will get a free digital download of this book. Because my dream for my career is to help your dream as a leader come true. I'm Dr. Avi. Be well, do good. Thank you so much for your attention.